Welcome back to part 2 of the goal setting and inner voice chat that I'm having with Eley May from Flexercise. Thank you so much for joining us again to learn from this incredible human being who's got so much knowledge to share with us. So thanks everyone for watching, and Eley, thank you so much for having it. It's such an incredible chat with myself today. Really appreciate it. We are just going to deep dive straight into part 2.
Yay. Yeah, so I feel like that's really, really important. And then the other thing that came up for me, what you were saying before, is I think it's so important to, when you're training, to train with curiosity, right? So when you're in class, I actually have had a few people reach out to me. Oh, actually, no, I've got 2 things in my brain that I want to talk about. I'm going to go back. So this is actually what you were talking about before, was time is a big thing in our life. Yeah. Time is really valuable to all of us. And we all have lots of areas in our life that we want to be focusing on. Yeah. So I have a lot of people reach out saying, Eley, I just don't have the time to do the amount of training that I want to do. And I always remind them that actually, let's use the time that you're already allocating to train smarter and to get curious in our training. So say you came to my class, Sim, and I keep giving this cue and I'm like, Sim, tight back leg. And you're like, what is she talking about? What's tight back leg? But in my head, right, because of all the training I've done in my life, I've actually packaged up, I've used the term tight back leg to mean squeezing my back quad and my hamstring really tight, pushing energy out of my heel, pulling up through my hip and my belly. I've packaged that up for me. But if I keep shouting that at you, right, for 5 weeks and your leg's still bent, that is not resonating with you. Number one, it's my responsibility as a teacher or coach to say, hey, Sim, well, firstly, it's your responsibility as someone learning, because you're the one that's got your own personal goals, to say, hey, Eley, I hear you saying tight back leg. What do you mean by that? I guarantee you're not the only one in the class. You're not the only one that is not understanding my language, because my language, although we're all speaking the same language potentially, you're not hearing it the same way as I'm saying it. It doesn't have the meaning that I have put on it to you, because you haven't lived my life in my experiences. So if you ask, train with curiosity, Ellie, what do you mean by that? And I say, oh, what I mean by it is squeeze your quad, do this, do that. And you go, oh, and then you start to do the straight leg, right? What that does, number one, is you understand it now. Great. But number two, when you go and practice yourself, you're training more efficiently, right? Doesn't mean you have to go and do 5 more hours this week. Just next time you go to class, when you go and do that thing that I said, tight back leg, it's already there. Your subconscious mind has heard it and you might create a new word. You might go, oh, Ellie, I just need you to say squeeze my quad. And that's what I was going to go into. As a coach, it's so important to get curious about your client, the person, how they operate and how they understand you and the language you use. So I have this amazing client, a different one, who is just in like, you work with her too. I wonder if you can get
exactly what you're talking about.
click mode. And I'm talking like everything is just falling into place. We've worked together, I think, for like 4 years now. And she's a very, very much of a thinker. She'll be watching this knowing I'm talking about her. She wants to know everything on an intellectual level first, which is so cool, because the levels of learning, you need to learn it consciously. Then it's really clunky, right? Then it's like, I know it logically, but I can't do it. Like my brain says yes, my body says no, like that really clunky stage of learning. And then there's the kind of stage where sometimes you do it naturally, but then sometimes you've got to really think. And then there's the stage that she's in now, 4 years later. So I'm telling you, 4 years later of consistent mobility training, someone who hasn't done this from baby age, someone who's very determined to get towards her goals because she knows her deep purpose for them. Anyway, all of that with the fact that she's now doing things unconsciously, so she's in flow. When your body and mind are aligned in flow, imagine what you can do with your physical body. There's no limit.
I've watched her over the last 4 years and seen her work with you from a distance, and she has come so far. And I think I've been working with her, I was going to say probably just over 6 months, maybe 8-9 months now, and even in like that time frame, it's, again, we're talking about an individual, but it's just been mind-blowing, the changes that have happened in that period of time, and that openness and willing to learn and progress. And yeah, she's doing incredibly well.
And that inner trust. She's got this real inner trust of herself now. Like, she knows that she's done the work, she's built up the physical tools and the mental tools. And now, and the thing about her, I stop her often in a session. Not stop her, that's a lie, because if she's in flow, I just watch in awe. And then I ask her after, I'm like, hey, what happened there? And she goes, oh, something you said before. There was like I'm going to use an example. There was a lunging combo that I wanted her to arch in and find more extension. And I wanted her to get to the point of strength and stability, and then to really just breathe so she could float down to whatever her body would allow. And I think my cue was, reach as far as you can. Let's try and get your fingertips to the wall behind you. And then after she did the combo really beautifully, I could tell, because I was watching her movement just fall into place rather than be forced into place or try and get to the end picture before just allowing it to grow into what it needed to grow. Anyway, so it went from this kind of more, I don't want to say clunky, but this more kind of
really thought about.
Coming up for me like clunky and forced, but they were never that, because she's not there. But
the next step above, it's not clunky or forced, but it's you really have to think about it versus a natural flow stuff.
Right. I could see she was in her thinking space, and then the next round she went into her feeling space of just feeling it, and her body went. And then I said to her, what came up for you? She said, oh, something you said about reaching your fingertips. And then that's something I call packaging up. So when, like with a cue, I like to create, because there's so many things going on in your body when you're learning movement, right? And especially if you're someone who's stretching and doing mobility for like later in your life, like it's not something that you've just done growing up. And a lot of the people that I work with, that's definitely the situation. And I think it's really important to learn it on that conscious level, and then understand it, but then use like one word to package it all up, you know?
I was going to say, in terms of cues, this is from a physio point of view for anyone watching, there's actually a lot of evidence now starting to come out about internal versus external cues. So when we're talking about, squeeze with the quads is definitely, it's more of an internal cue because you're talking about a specific muscle, versus, what was the other cue you used? Tighten your leg?
Tight leg.
Yeah, tight leg. Yeah, cool. So that's still kind of going a little bit more internal. Maybe we'll go with the reach for the wall cue versus the.
Or another cue I use is pull up, which I think is relevant to you. Pull up. Yeah. Is that more external?
It does. Let's go with the reaching for the wall. That's more of an external cue. So versus a bend for your back, or like I want you to think about arching one specific point of your back. So there's a lot of research now coming out talking about how external cues are generally a little bit more effective when training.
Hoping that's exactly where it was going to go, because I was going to be like, oh, I'm not sure if I agree. That's so.
All right. So with pole, for example, we don't use the cue pull your shoulder blades back and down. That's not an ideal cue because it can lead to some issues that may occur. Whilst that's one of the things that may happen secondary to us pulling ourselves up, it's not something that we want. And this is a whole conversation for another day. But quite often what I'll cue is pull the pole to you, or pull the pole out of the roof. And those sort of cues, unlocking different cues and seeing how they sit within your body, can be really helpful for pole, but for a flexibility point of view. So some people might respond really, really nicely to the, hey, just bend your back through this point, and that's them. So sometimes internal cues are really helpful for the individual, but a lot of the times most people respond really nicely to external cues. So having a coach that tries different cues out with you to figure out what works for you, and then packaging them and remembering, that's gold. That is a coach that can do that. Yeah.
As a coach, right? Your end goal is to be, it's just like I've just become a mum. I've got a 14-month-old. Like my end goal, right, is to be able to help her understand the world so that like she can leave the nest when she's ready. But you know what I mean? Like as a coach, that's our goal. Like I want you to be able to go away and train. So I train my clients that I work with one-on-one. I train them once a week, and there's a very small handful that I do like fortnightly. I don't do less than that, because of the skills that we're trying to work towards are so like specific and quite intense for the body. I like to, the time spent together is to get to know them and the way they learn. And sorry, that's my partner in the garage, just doing something funky. Sorry, in the garage of the cafe that we're at.
Every good cafe comes with a garage.
Anyway, yeah, I think like getting to know the person so that we can really speak to them so they can find their own results and then be able to take all the stuff that we've learned in session, all the things that they've brought up from within them, right? And then they can go and train themselves. And then you want them to be able to leave the nest.
So right? these are the clients that are they're really serious about creating. Absolutely. So they're the ones that you work with one-to-one online. Yeah,
exactly.
And I was going to say, and you also have as well, you mentioned it's the flexibility, the Flexercise online programs, which are self-guided programs as well, which I think are incredible. I'm kind of just straight away diverged into that, but I just kind of felt like we needed to talk about them for the moment, but we can come back to learning cues and coaching and talk about them in a second. But for those watching, can you give me a brief rundown on your programs that you have out there? Because there's so many and they're amazing, and I think people should know everything about them.
Absolute best. Thank you, Sim. Well, again, another one, like I wanted to do online programs for years and years and years, but again, that little inner voice popped up for me, like, you're not smart enough. Who will film it? Who will edit it? Like, I didn't know how I would do that. And luckily, something within me, my gut space, told me to do it. And it was 2019, right before all the lockdown stuff happened. So it was August of 2019 when I finally, and again, I used all this stuff, right? I decided on the date that I was going to do it. I could see it happening. I started doing all these things, building up my compelling, deeper purpose to do it. And I finally got out of my way and did it. And that was 2019. That was with the beginner front splits program. And the reason that I wanted to do it was because I was at complete capacity. Like, you know exactly how this is, Sim. I was cooked and I had so many people reaching out asking to train, but I just couldn't. I could not do more because I was so tired. But I wanted to help people. I want to educate people on how to understand their bodies, both on an intellectual level and on an intuitive level. And I hope that that's what I'm getting across in the programs. So more than anything, the programs are there as an educational tool, for you to take what really resonates with you and drag and drop it into your own training and your own mental way of thinking around your movement. And you don't have to take everything I say as, Bible, because there are a million ways to get there. Yeah, I believe that you should train with lots and lots of people, and you should drag and drop the things that you really, really resonate with and that work in your body. And you should chuck them into your own training and be an intelligent mover and do things that way. I think it's important. So there are structured programs with structured training. And of course, if you followed them, you would definitely move in the direction of those goals. But you can also, like we said, baby steps. You might use it as an educational tool. You might get 3 really cool cues out of it that you feel like, oh, yep, I can put that into my own training. And it might really help you move towards lots of other goals too. It might help you become, a more, not better coach, but it might give you some new tools. If you're a coach, it might give you new tools and go, oh, wow, yeah, that one really landed for me. I'll try that out in class. That's what I really want for my programs. I just want to educate, inspire, and just give people new tools to work with. So yeah, there's those programs like splits, advanced splits, tilts, needles, backbending. Gosh, what else? Active, everything.
There's front splits, there's middle splits, there's
noodles, pancakes.
Yes, I was going to say, and then needles,
backbending.
Yeah, there's heaps. There's basically a program for pretty much everything at the moment. I'm sure you have a couple more in the works.
I do have some in the works, which is exciting. But yeah, just like I said before, I became a new mum, and they've just been on pause for about a year. But definitely, this year there'll be some more out, which is exciting. And the Flex Fridays, of course.
Yes, I've got a very grumpy dog. I'm sure you can hear it. Let me bring Theo into the room.
Bring Theo in.
Coming to the cafe for the first time. Now, For anyone who is used to seeing Theo, he's a little bit different looking at the moment. He'll probably want to jump up and say hello to Eley, because I think.
Oh, Theo!
Oh no, you can't see him. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there he is. You've got a groom.
Bit of a groom. Hey, buddy. You know Ellie's voice, don't you?
Hello, Theo. Cute.
I was going to say you're the only one that he's insisted on coming into so far.
Oh, that's cute.
Okay. Hey, buddy, do you reckon we can pop into the corner so I can finish chatting with Ellie?
Oh my God, look how needy. That makes me feel better because my dog Biscuit is just that needy. You know how he is.
He's going through a really needy week. I don't know what it is, but he's not usually a needy dog, but he's a bit needy today. All right.
Okay.
Sweet boy. Sorry. So for anyone who's interested in training with you, they can reach out through your Instagram, which is at flexercise_, and flexercise is spelled with a Z, not an S. Yeah. And then obviously your website, they can check it out, flexercise.com.au, and look at programs, which I think is a great starting point when training flexibility. Sorry, I'm patting something very patting my dog, but it looks.
Oh yeah, I was like, this is nice. I don't know what you're patting.
I really feel the need to move and
just move this energy, like go. Love that.
So usually I would talk about all these things towards the end of the session, and I guess we're kind of getting close to that, but I will come back to them, and I'll say it again. But I just really felt like as we're talking about coaching and building your toolkit, I think really people out there should certainly learn about you and know what you have to offer for the pole and dance and aerial community, because you certainly do wonderful work working with all of us out there. So I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. Yeah. I'm going to bring back to us coaches, and I include myself as a coach, even though I was going to say,
for me, like, I think it's important as coaches as well to have coaches, like so important.
That was, yes, coaches need coaches. You were the first person who said that to me, and I was like, absolutely. Actually, people won't know this about you, but you're like, maybe you don't know. You definitely know.
I'm like, what are you going to tell them?
Like, what are you going to say, Simone? So the Pole Physio exists because of Eley.
Don't ever say that. That is the biggest lie. It's all because of Simone, but I'm interested in what you're to say.
Eley was one of the primary inspirations for me when the pole. I say you might not even know this. I swear I've told you this before, but yeah, Flexercise and Eley was certainly one of the primary inspirations as to the creation of the Pole Physio. There was a couple other things that happened at the time, but then we lockdown hit in 2020, and so I think seeing how much you had done at that point, and that there was a space for it, but also how exceptional the service that you were offering at the time to people. Yeah, this is true. It was certainly one of the driving factors to help create the Pole Physio. And what you were saying before is sometimes you just end up falling into things. For me, Pole Physio was one of those things that I certainly fell into. It was obviously sitting there underlying for a while, but it never had come to the surface as a fully realized concept. And it was like literally one day I was like, I'm going to create the Pole Physio. It was literally like that. I'm not even joking. It was obviously bubbling deep within inside.
Bubbling, clearly.
Multiple things, and it was seeing all the wonderful stuff that you were doing through Flexercise and a few other little people, but you were definitely one of the primary ones. And it certainly, from a goal setting point of view, and from you were one of the biggest inspirations for the Pole Physio when I started. So yeah, you should know that. I swear I told you.
I actually didn't know that. But you are literally one of my biggest inspirations too. And do you know what, like, it's so funny, like all the stuff you said before about it all just like flowing. Like you said Danny had posted something earlier today. Was it Danny?
Caitlin posted something earlier today. Yeah.
Well, I remember, like, I was working with lots of women who like train at the pole studio where you train, and then they were telling me like they're seeing Simone, she's amazing, didn't know. That's how the first I'd heard of you, and then like it all kind of ended up being this kind of cool, like,
supposed to happen
team event without it actually being a team event, didn't it? Like we didn't know each other at that point at all.
It just reminded me. So what actually happened was, so I was working as a physio in private practice locally, and I was seeing a lot of the students at the studio I was working with and a lot of the clients you were seeing were actually the instructors at my studio. And what I observed over like a 6 or a 9 month period was a significant change in warm-up style. And
really?
yeah, like significant. And it blew my mind. This is how Pole Physio was inspired by Flexercise. It blew my mind how much of an impact you had widespread on my studio by only seeing like 4 or 5 of the people at them at the time, and it had filtered down quite considerably. And I went, if this is what one incredible woman can do online, have such an impact, and you'd made such an impact in a positive way, because for ages I was thinking about how I could, as a singular person, make a difference to multiple people at once, as opposed to like the one-on-one sessions. Because I can make a difference one-on-one, but I really wanted to make an impact. This is my why. This is where
I love this, because before this we were talking and you're like, I don't know.
This is how Pole Physio started. Sorry, I'm just completely.
Know your why. She's in there.
Why. It's because I wanted to make a positive impact affecting multiple people. So mass communication and multiple effect at the same time. And that's how Pole Physio started, because I saw you doing that through Flexercise. And I saw firsthand what an incredible effect you had at my studio. And I was like, I need to take this further. Like, there's more things to be done. And then that's how we ended up, obviously through people.
Yeah. And you know what you've just said though to me? It's so funny, because you wanted to do it like the one-on-one, even though it feels like you're not making that big impact. But what you just said to me was that the one-on-one, like helping one person to find new ways, or to expand, I like, because this is my word of the year, to expand their way of doing things, then they could take that into their class. And how cool is that, that you were someone in that class that recognized it, and then you were like, oh my God, I've got to expand my stuff. And then I'm sure many people who read your blogs, who follow your like awesome videos that are like breakdown stuff that's just nuts and free on your Instagram, like imagine what they're taking into their class. So you are doing this en masse.
Yeah, because of you, because you inspired me to do that. But yes, absolutely, I'm taking that, and it's a you
not
thing.
Because of me. Definitely not because of me, because of you. You are killing it.
But what I love, we've completely digressed, and I love that. That's what I love about these chats, though, is that it's got a core topic, but it's really just a general flow in a chat. And yeah, so the thing I love is I love treating teachers, instructors. So I really, really appreciate when instructors book in to see me, and I'm sure you feel probably the same, is that if we can change one person that then has a reach of however many students they have, the change is incredible. Even seeing though someone who's not a teacher, that change can be quite still incredible for those around them. But I definitely see the treating of an instructor, wow. It's just that you're then creating a mentor for other mentors, and you're influencing their pathway, and it's incredible. And you can help them as individuals with their goal setting and working on their flexibility and mobility, and then that then has a flow-on effect to so many more. So many more. And that's another deeper why for me as well, because the more that I can help you, for example, if you're a client, to access new like heights in the way that you move, then the more that you can help all those people to access new heights in the way they move, and then again, like the more that kind of like just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which is so cool. So cool. It's powerful, very powerful. Coming back to when I really interrupted you. Oh no, I was going to say, we were talking about I guess coaches helping students heading in the right direction, and trying to help them expand their toolkits, so that they have the tools to take with themselves to then be able to implement it in training. I guess kind of building on that, how can students ensure that they are training in an effective or efficient or correct way when there's not a teacher around them to watch? What sort of tools can they be given by others, or what can they work on individually to help them?
Yeah, well, that really comes down to like, how are you showing up in class when you do have that teacher present? How curious are you getting? Don't worry about being the loud one in class. If you have questions, you're paying to go to that class. You are not just with money, with your time. You're giving your time, which is one of the most valuable resources, to go to that specific class. If a question is popping up in your mind, if you don't understand, first thing, ask the question. Guaranteed someone else in the class is going to benefit from the answer as well. And the teacher is going to benefit from the answer. Because every time someone asks me a question, I learn what's popping up for someone else. Because how can I know what's popping up in your brain? Because the same thing doesn't pop up in my brain. Another thing about teachers is that a lot of them have got a different background to you. They might be at a different level of movement. So what makes sense to them on a deep, deep intuitive level now doesn't make sense to you yet, and they might not be aware of it. So asking questions in class not only helps you, but helps the teacher learn and grow how to communicate better, to then once again expand their knowledge on a different level, bigger and bigger and bigger en masse, which is what, like, a lot of us that teach and coach, like, that's the deep, deep reason for why we do it. And then another thing that you can do is that inner voice that talks to you, you talk back. So when you're in class, and it sounds a bit crazy, I always talk to myself when I'm moving, not in like a controlling my body way, so just so that, again, my subconscious hears what's going on, so that next time I do it, when potentially I'm adding a layer to it, like I'm making the skill a little bit harder, my body already has reference points. It's heard it. So for example, I say to you, you say to me, I'll be the student, you say to me, Eley, tight leg. What does tight leg mean? I wouldn't ask it rudely like that, but I'd be like, hey, Simone, what do you mean by tight leg? And you say, oh, what I mean is pull up tight through your quads and push energy out of your back heel to try and reach the wall behind you for that external cueing. Is that what you called it? External.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, external cue.
See, look at you, taught me something really cool, which sometimes you already know things on an intuitive level, but learning it on an intellectual level builds the connection with that thing that you know. And now you've already made me a better teacher just from this chat, Simone. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think as a teacher, as a student, remember that your teachers also love to learn. That's why they're teaching, because it resonates with them. Anyway, going back, then you've said to me that I have then squeezed my quad, and I know I've looked in the mirror and I've gotten my desired result. Then I'm going to say, Eley, what do you feel right now? In my head. I'm not going to shout out over the class. I'm going to say, Eley, what do you feel right now? Oh, I can feel that my kneecap is pulling up towards my hip, and I can feel that I'm pushing my heel back away from my hip. So those are two little cues that I've given myself. I've seen it visually. I've asked the question, I've said it back to myself. So then now when I go and I practice, I might be in front of a mirror because I know I'm visual and I learn better that way. Or I might film myself, whatever it is. I can bring up all those things. I can drag and drop all that stuff into my training, and then I can see my leg. I look over in the mirror and I can see my leg is straight. Now I've built a second experience where I've done the same thing. I created new neural pathways, and I'm starting to practice these things I learned in class. So you have to be a smart learner when you go to class. Don't just use the warm-up in class as fluff. Yeah, use that as an opportunity to learn about your body, because all these warm-ups on the floor, if you can get really, really clear on them now, when you go and take your body onto your apparatus, whatever it is, you don't have time to think of every single little cue you have to give your body. It's like language, like us talking right now. If I was sitting here thinking of every word I was trying to get out, our conversation would be like so clunky, and like we couldn't talk to each other, right? So we've had enough experience with language, we've practiced it enough, we've asked questions about words we don't understand, whatever. And we have built lots of reference around it by practice, so that we can do this like free flowing like we are.
We don't have to think
like movement. The more you practice, the more curious you get in class. I always say to really feed your inner beginner, even if you're an advanced mover, like go and learn from lots of people around you and approach it as a complete beginner. Get curious. Get curious is also another word that I'm going to put into my year, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say get curious is a really good word to start the year for people listening. I really love it. So
I feel like those are some really good ways to use the time you have in class to then be able to go and do it outside of class. Yeah. Another thing is taking pictures, taking videos, looking back, and really listening to what comes up for you. Oh, my leg's really bent there. What do I know about having a bent leg? well, I know that if I squeeze this, squeeze that, do this, do that, that I've straightened my leg in the past, let's try it. That worked. Wow, I'll keep doing that. Or no, that didn't work. You know, yeah, play. Movement's about play, and movement more than anything is about feeling. As important as it is to know what you're doing, also get into your body and feel. Does it feel good? Does it feel good?
Yeah, we talk about sensation-based movement, and it's really about trying to understand what you're feeling, what your body's telling you back. So listening to your body versus, you know, forcing it to do something, but really, what is it feeling? Let yourself sit into it and go. It's kind of like meditative in a way. If you think about, you know, if you go to bed at night and you're trying to do some of those meditative strategies where you're like, okay, I'm going to clench and then unclench, and you think about every muscle moving and relaxing. When we're in a, you know, split, what's your muscle doing? Like, what part of your body is doing what? Like, have that awareness. So that real sensory awareness as to what your body's doing is so key when it comes to movement, and then creating art or creating lines, or, you know, whatever you're trying to achieve, particularly in the world of flexibility, mobility, and pole and aerial. It's so important that we're able to tap into our sensory system and understand. And what you said before in terms of creating neural connections, the more you practice something, the more you're going to create those neural connections, the more strength those neural connections get. They're called neurotags for anyone wanting to nerd out. The stronger you create those neurotags, the more automatic the movement will become, the less clunky it will feel. Like exactly everything that you're saying there, Eley. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think a really important tool, someone who's learning something new, is don't have this crazy expectation that it's going to feel and look exactly as you want it to for the end goal the first time you do it. Just every time you learn is an opportunity to filter out what doesn't work and reinforce what does work. Every time another client, I'm going to pull her up. Let's see if you know who she is. This is just fun.
I was just saying, the brave line.
Like when first learning something, like she's a very, very amazing, like high achiever, kills it. When first learning something, can be a bit like, oh, like frustrated at like not getting it first off, but then like always, every single time, it is a very, very resourceful learner, brings it back, like challenges that inner voice big time, and always just has to take a breath, change her physiology. So if you feel yourself getting frustrated at yourself, you're trying to get into a certain position and you can't, and you feel your mind going into a more negative space, then you feel your body going into a more closed off space. We need to change our physiology to change that inner talk. So we might need to like get up, like go for a jog. We might need to do something to take us into a taller position or whatever it is. Get up and change it, and then bring yourself back to that skill with a more kind of positive mindset towards it. And also accept that every time you fail or every time you fall, you have an opportunity to use that as data and go, oh, I keep leaning, say it's something balancing, right? I keep falling to my right. You can ask your coach, what do I do? I keep falling right. Your coach might give you some good information. Or you could go, okay, well, if I'm falling right, I need to do X, Y, Z to bring my weight back to center. Let's really push it left. Oh, now I'm falling left. Okay, another piece of data. Tap, 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 tap till you've got what works, right? You filtered out what doesn't. Then your body doesn't do what doesn't anymore, because your body is very, very intelligent. Your mind and your body, super intelligent. Our body is designed to do things as efficiently as possible, if it can, to conserve energy. So do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. 100%. Love it too.
Love it. Could go forever. I feel like we've taken over everyone's day.
I was going to say, we won't keep going, because I think that everyone's probably got so much valuable information from you already today. And I could talk to you. We really could talk to you. So I won't do that to you. I'm sure Annabelle would like her mum back at some point.
Oh, she's at daycare. Don't even worry. But she did this cup at daycare. Oh, wait, where is it? Here it is. Hang on.
Oh my God, is that not the cutest? Bring it more towards you.
Oh,
yeah,
got it.
Oh, it is like the cutest. A little name on it. I think It's very well, I was going to say abstract art. We love
Yes,
that.
it is. I
Yeah.
love that. She's obviously really aligned herself with what she was feeling at the time.
It looks like a fish now. I look at it this angle. Initially, I
Yeah.
thought it was a crab, but I think it's got a bit more fishy kind of appearance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
we
think,
have been at the beach, so maybe that's her inspiration. Who knows? Whatever's coming out.
I
It's
think,
perfect.
you know, you and Caitlin have got a very, I mean, I think you're probably winning at the moment, but Caitlin had a very cute mug the other day. So you might be, you're in the lead there, I think, with the cutest mug so far. And I was going to say, Caitlin.
Competition for the cutest mug. Go. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I could get Annabelle. Imagine I go and start coaching Annabelle in her painting. We've got like a whole picture next time.
Well, tell Annabelle I expect a mug sometime soon.
Oh gosh, sorry, how rude of us.
Get her onto it. Thank you so much again for your time. I do appreciate it, and I'm sure that everyone watching appreciates it as well. So again, just to reiterate where people can find you. So Instagram, your lovely top is very helpful at the moment because it's
Oh, right. Let's get on brand today.
Flexercise _ on Instagram. And so size with a Z, not an E, not an S, sorry. Don't know why I said E, definitely an E in there. And also www.flexercise.com.au if anyone's looking at checking out one of your online programs or getting in touch with you to try and work one-to-one. I think I know from experience you're a fabulous coach, and you bring out the best in people, and I really see it within the pole community and aerial community in terms of how far they get. And I really, really rely on you quite a lot in terms of some flexibility and mobility work with my clients. So yeah.
Thank you. We do have a lot of clients that cross over, and it's really cool because it's important. Like you can't, I feel like you can't think that you can just do every part of everyone's everything, because you burn yourself out, but you're also not allowing people the opportunity to learn from like lots of different minds within. And I think that's really important.
Agreed. Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, thank you again. And we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thanks everyone for joining us. We appreciate you joining us over part 1 and part 2 of this series. And keep your eye out for the next summer speaker series that will be dropping very soon. Thanks everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.